Welcome to my channel. My name is Tina Rose, and this is a people pleaser support group. I am a recovering people pleaser, and I am here showing up for anyone else who has set their intention or is even considering recovering from being a people pleaser. And just a few days ago, I released a video about talking briefly about a dream that I had. And I had asked in the video for people to comment if they were interested in hearing more details and more about the symbolism used in that dream to show where I was at in my healing journey. And I got some feedback that people were interested. And I also was strongly guided after that, publishing that video internally. My spirit team guided me, whether I hear back from anyone or not, we recommend that you post another video with more detail about the symbolism. And so the dream was about me pulling a snake from my mouth. And it came after I completed a 365-day lesson plan in A Course in Miracles. And in the previous video, I talked about how Jesus was my mentor. And the thing about that I think I failed to mention in the previous video was that A Course in Miracles was brought up in that around Jesus as my mentor because Jesus is the teacher of the material presented in A Course in Miracles. Okay, so jump to the dream. I'm going to try to keep this in a format that is not too squirrely all over the place. But there are at least 5 key layers of meaning in this dream. So I pulled a snake, and after, the 365 days, it did something. I mean, that devotion and that practice, that daily practice of devoting time, and it was pretty much all day. I'll say 24/7, okay? 24/7, 365 days. Devotion. I was adamant. I didn't miss a day. And when I did it, I was 150% in that devotion each day, doing what each lesson recommended that I do, that Jesus recommended that I do, around recommended meditation, recommended practices, holding people in my heart, looking at this, looking at that. I did it. I was committed because before that, I went into A Course in Miracles 365-day lesson because I was so lost. I was in a dark place, and I finally just threw up my hands and said, I don't know. You need to show me what I need. Okay, so the dream. It was the dream of me pulling a snake out of my mouth was very powerful. It was archetypal. It symbolized deep transformation, and that I was ready for the next big step. That something significant was happening in my inner world. And the first symbol is the mouth. And the mouth, it was like an extraction of suppressed truth, because the mouth symbolizes communication, expression, and truth. And I was completely, if you haven't seen any of my other videos, I was completely shut down verbally, emotionally. I mean, I still had emotions, but I held them all in. I held them all in my entire life. So when we talk about, we're talking 60 plus years. Okay, I'll say 5.5 decades, almost 6 decades that I was suppressing. And so you're not going to heal overnight. Let me just throw that in there for other people pleasers. You're not going to heal overnight, especially when you do it as long as I did. And it was almost like, when I think back, it was about 6 years ago when I jumped in with that being in a dark place and with A Course in Miracles about 6 years ago. So it almost equates to 1 year of healing for each decade that I lived in that suppression. I thought that was a little interesting factoid. Okay, so yeah, the mouth represents how we can speak. And it just came to me. I'm feeling like my higher self has guided me to say this. I don't want to drag the video out. But at a point during that 365-day lesson with A Course in Miracles, I started, and it was in 2020, right before COVID hit. I'll try to make this a quick, short story because it's very interesting. I was reaching, no, I had just finished the 365-day lesson. It was right after, a couple months after that dream about the snake. And it was in March of, or sometime in January, I began to have physical symptoms of things. I was having hives all over my body, literally from head to toe, to the soles of my feet, all over my body, feet, legs, torso, neck, face. And I had like sets of hives would break out in almost like 5 or 6 places. Like I have 5 or 6 penny size or quarter size round places of hives that would break out. They would break out in groups. My torso, my feet, my legs, and they were itchy. And so this continued on for about 6 weeks. And, I thought, okay, I'm having some kind of a allergic reaction to something. So I didn't go to the doctor yet at that point, and I was just kind of letting it run its course, I thought. But also another thing that happened was that my lips swole. And it was ironic for me because I have thin little lips. But in this physical manifestation of what was going on inside of me energetically and what was trying to expel, right, be extracted of all this suppressed truth. And it was literally right after I had that dream, all of this started to manifest. Yeah, and my lips just swelled up really big and were itchy, and it was about me. I was not going to be shut down anymore. So that's an important part, another symbolism that happened right after I had that dream and finished those lessons. It was all happening. Okay, the next key factor in this dream for the symbology was the snake. And so the snake represents fear, taboo, like shame around speaking your truth, and what society told you to hide or your environment told you to hide. But society is a true word too, because I feel that there is an epidemic in the world of us being people pleasers. Even if you weren't as severely conditioned as I was, the way I was in my environment, it's everywhere. It's at church, it's at schools, and out in public. I see it every day now. It just blows me away. And I'm not judging anybody. This is what we've been conditioned to do. I mean, in a public place, and I'll see people um, being people pleasers by what they say, how they respond to people behind the counter, or vice versa. But anyway, I'm not judging. I'm just pointing that out, something that I feel is the case these days. So I feel like all of us, almost all of us, have something to heal around people pleasing. And right, the snake symbolized from the mouth the releasing of what I had been afraid to speak. It represented a clearing, the toxicity of swallowing so much emotionally, swallowing and not letting it out and let other people hear it. Snake symbolized from being pulled from the mouth, no longer holding someone else's projections and other people's trauma. Yeah. Um, so this dream was symbolic of the unraveling, like a snake uncoiling of a truth that has been held dormant in me for 6 decades. And another key factor, this is the key factor number 3, the third symbol, was that I pulled the snake out of my mouth, tail first. Number 3 symbol. Tail first was very powerful. Something significant was happening in my inner world. I was removing the effects first. Tail first means I was removing the effects first and the root of the issue last. And the effects would be like of not being authentic in my expression, like afraid to speak, swallowing my emotions, taking on projections of others. And the root was not feeling like I belonged and being shut down from my environment. My root was where I was placed on earth in that particular family and situation. So the tail first also is symbolic of something that entered my psyche a long time ago and was finally being expelled. It was a detox of my soul. Another part of the symbolism for the tail first was around spiritual power. It was like from the root up, root chakra up, and it was like awakening of Kundalini is what I'm getting. The stirring of that energy at the base of my spine. This dream signaled that, signaled the blocked creative spiritual energy that was ready to move upward, trauma clearing from the throat chakra. And the throat chakra rules truth, boundaries, and sovereignty. I had given all of those away. Those were, well, I had given them away to other people each time that I abandoned myself by not choosing myself and choosing to please and make other people comfortable. But I didn't know my truth anymore. I didn't even know how to feel my feelings to be able to know what boundaries to set. And my sovereignty, it was laying dormant. It was laying dormant. I had completely abandoned myself. And I wanted to, that was beginning to boil up right at this, underneath the surface. And it was laying under the surface. But when this time of transformation, when I finished those lessons, it was beginning to bubble up over the surface. And I was getting closer and I wanted more to be in my sovereignty. I didn't want what other people needed or projected on me to rule who I was anymore, the choices I was going to make. I wanted to be sovereign. And part three of the symbolism for the tail first was I was now ready for the integration of my shadow self, ready to look at that and integrate what that had to show me, because before I was terrified. I was terrified of looking at that because it had been what I needed to look at had been so painful all of my life. My inner child was like, no way, Jose. I mean, just no way. So I had to do a lot of work, inner child work, and the pulling of the snake with my own hands. And this is fourth symbol. The fact that I pulled it with my own hands was demonstration of my conscious courage, my willingness to face the shadow. And I was taking responsibility for my own healing. It showed a strength. And I always known and felt in my own way, even when I was at my weakest, that there was a strength inside of me. And I've been told that many times, that I'm a little petite person physically, but that I have a strength inside of me that surpasses all. And I believe that. I believe that a lot of us here, a lot of us people pleasers have that strength inside of us, but it was, we were spiritually broken out of a need to survive when we were younger. So that strength has been pushed down and hidden. We hide it from ourselves. So the next symbol, I've lost count at this point, 4 or 5, maybe 5, in the dream was the color of the snake. And it was grayish black. And the gray black in color symbolizes the unknown, the shadow, old buried trauma and programming. And the black absorbs the energies of that programming and buried trauma, and the gray symbolizes like a transition from that suppression. And this even goes into the black color is around other lifetimes. This was not just something that happened to me in this lifetime, but it was generational. I was involved with this in other lifetimes. I don't know, but they say sometimes you can share lifetimes, different lifetimes, with the same energies that you did in other lifetimes. For example, maybe I was the mother in another lifetime that was abusing a daughter. You know, I don't have all of that detail for myself at this point, but so there was generational trauma in different lifetimes, and generational trauma in the blood lineage, the physical blood lineage. From, my mother did it to me, her mother did it to her, and my grandma's mother did it to her. I remember seeing it too. My great-grandmother was still alive when, in my, like my teens or something like that. And I would see it when they would have interactions and be resentful toward each other and gossip about each other. I would sense that traumatized energy in my grandmother and my great-grandmother. So, and I was young. So even then, when I was completely suppressed like that, I saw it and felt the energy. So the color, the grayish black color, was significant in symbolizing a shift from unconscious to conscious to released. The next key factor that I want to mention was the size of the snake. It was enormous. It was big around, and then as it got closer to the head, it got wider, like a thinner and wider. You know, you've seen those cobras, yeah, when they're kind of arching up and they get flat and wide. But in the dream, that's what it did. It was a huge snake, not only big around and wide, but long. And if I had to put the length into like a physical measurement, uh, I don't know, it was like 30 feet. It was very long. It's like I was just doing this forever, pulling the snake out by the tail forever in the dream. And so the symbology around the enormous size of the snake, um, I felt like it's related to how long this energy had been within me, how long I had been suppressing this energy, how much it has influenced my life, and how much spiritual strength it required to release it. It was a dissolving of a major, major stronghold within me, something that once seemed bigger than life, bigger than me, was now pulled out by me, by my own hands, was a lifelong pattern ending. And the overall symbology of the dream reveals how I wasn't afraid. I knew the snake was not my enemy. It was a symbol of what I had outgrown. The suppression of my truth. I had outgrown it. It no longer served me. I didn't need it anymore to survive. And it's like in that situation, in my inner world, I was fearless. In my inner world, I was fearless. I won't say in my outer world that I was fearless to say anything or do anything because I had to work through that. But I was now at a place where I was going to do this. I didn't know how, but I was going to do it. I knew that this was a symbol, this dream was a symbol that I was spiritually aligned for that healing now. My nervous system was no longer controlled by that old story of needing to be suppressed and shut down. And I was beginning to step into my full sovereignty. It was liberating and scary at the same time. I don't know how to explain it. Um, and this was a sign that a large amount of healing had already happened on a soul level. And I noticed that it was just very smooth, right, for me to pull that snake tail first from my mouth. I didn't choke. It was just, yeah, I didn't panic. I chose to remove it. And I need to quickly tell you the last symbolism in it was the male figure that was standing to my right and a little behind. And I always felt that that was Jesus. And I feel that it symbolized, the right side symbolized strength and action and divine authority, divine masculine, divine authority. And behind me slightly was symbolic of his support, protection, and spiritual backing, spiritual support, saying, I am here for you if you need me, but you got this. It was also about he didn't feel the need to intervene because I had already stepped into that role of being my own liberator. And he stood as confirmation of my divinity. His presence made this transformation a sacred rite of initiation. And this was not a rescue. With him being there in the dream, it showed me that he was witnessing my ascension and my transformation. And that's all I have, just to keep this video under 30 minutes. I hope that you find this helpful. And just know that everything in your nighttime dreams and your daytime dreams is showing you something either about where you need to heal, what you're doing that's keeping you from healing, and maybe where you have healed. Everything that happens in your physical experience and your nighttime dreams is showing you something about yourself. It's happening through you, as you, for you. Blessed be, my friend.